Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another session of the GESI webinar series. The GESI webinar series serves as a platform for the GESI network members to share experience and expertise in evidence syntheses and to learn about potential collaborations. Before we start, please note that every attendee is automatically muted when joining GoToWebinar. But if you have any question or comment, either send in your question in the toolbox on the right or use the raise your hand button so that we can unmute you and let you participate in this discussion. Today's session is on Sysrev and open access for open access systematic reviews with Dr. Thomas Luchtfeld. Dr. Thomas created Sysrev in 2017 to create an interface between document review and data analytics. Sysrev is now rapidly growing into a global platform for collaborative, open, transparent, accountable, and democratic systematic reviews. Thomas, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Go.
Okay, please let me know when the screen shows up.
Yes, looks great.
Okay, great. So first, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. It looks like we have a relatively small group. So if you guys have any questions while I'm speaking, I think you can put it in the chat box. And if someone just lets me know about that, I'll be sure to respond. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it now. I'm going to be talking about sysrev.com. You can go to Sysrev right now if you're interested in following along in your browser. Sysrev is all about document review and systematically reviewing and analyzing everything. Sysrev is actually the first open access document review platform, and I'll get into what exactly that means in a little bit. But the idea is that any project you put on Sysrev, you can make public, and anybody can then visit that project and take the data that you've been creating and use it for their own projects. This creates a more democratic ability within the systematic review space. So I'm going to jump into it a little bit. While I'm doing this presentation, I'm going to show you a few other links and just switch between those in my browser. I think that should work. Okay, so let me see if I can make the GoToWebinar thing a little smaller. There we go. All right, so in the last 10 years, systematic review has really been taking off. Systematic review is all about systematically reviewing documents. So looking at, usually in academia, looking at academic articles and having a process for extracting information from those articles. In 2011, Prospero launched. Prospero is a registry for these systematic reviews, and you can see the growth of the number of registered reviews has been exponential. Every year we're getting about a 50% growth, and actually that's continuing in 2019. I haven't updated this image in a little while, but I think we've actually already surpassed the number of reviews registered in 2018 in 2019. I would argue that this trend is similar to the trend that you see in machine learning in the medical literature. If you search PubMed for machine learning, you'll see more and more people are using this method. But really, this is just a trend about using data. And so people have realized that when doing some sort of review process, they really should be collecting that data. So really, they can do basic statistical inference on it and potentially use these machine learning algorithms. So there's a really big takeoff happening right now within changing the way that we review articles in academia. But this process can be extended to many other domains. So let me just review the process really quickly. My apologies to people who are already familiar with this. The basic idea is that if you want to do a review of a topic, you first have to collect a corpus. So if we're going to review, let's say, how medical stents work, we might collect a corpus on, let's say kidney stents. We might collect a whole lot of articles related to kidney stents. So this process, actually the very first step, can be quite difficult, but you can also do a simple approach if you want to be less thorough and just do a simple search for, let's say, kidney stents. Once you've collected that corpus, your job is to define some sort of review task. So you might be extracting information from these articles, like what kind of study was done, what kind of stents were used, which stents had which effects on the kidneys. Sysrev actually helps you perform this review process by assigning articles to different reviewers within your group. So it's quite easy for you to set up a Sysrev and invite a whole lot of reviewers, or to create a Sysrev and just do the project by yourself. Once you've done this review process, at the end of the day, what you have is a big table, and that table maps each article to a whole bunch of extracted labels. So in this table, you're seeing article 1, the device used is a stent and the glomerular filtrate rate is 60. And then you're building a big table out of this. After you've built that table, you can start doing all sorts of data analytics or machine learning model building. And we'll get into that in a little bit as well. Something I like to point out is that there's nothing about this process that's specific for academic articles. You can use the exact same process for analyzing images. And we're hoping on Sysrev this year to launch images actually as a document that you can review. But already Sysrev supports quite a few other document types like PDFs, which is something I'll show you in a few slides. But with images, all it would be is you collect a whole bunch of images, let's say relevant to prostate cancer. And then you're going to have humans look at those images and extract relevant features in those images. And then you're going to build a big table that allows people to analyze those images. If you're doing prostate cancer, you might analyze something called Gleason score. So this is the exact same kind of process. To give you an example of yet another domain, we worked with Dr. Channing Peller at Johns Hopkins Medical Institute, and she's an oncologist. She wanted to do a study on vitamin C cancer clinical trials. Specifically, she was interested in extracting data from clinicaltrials.gov and finding which trials use vitamin C and how they use vitamin C. So we loaded that up onto Sysrev, and you can actually go to this page right now. It's a public review, so you can go to sysrev.com/p/6737, and you can see this is what the review process looks like. And so you've loaded up a whole bunch of metadata from clinical trials in this case, and people are extracting information like what administration method was used for vitamin C. Was it a multivitamin delivery? Was a placebo used? All this kind of structured data can be extracted from these clinical trials. Once you've collected all that data into a table, you can start doing analytics. I blurred this out because the results are getting published very soon, but they're not quite out yet. The spoiler here is that people are using vitamin C more and more in clinical trials. But rather than just track how things are changing over time, we can also say, which drugs are being used with vitamin C, which different administration methods are being used, which diseases is vitamin C being used on. All this information is really important to people like Dr. Peller. And you can see how this would extend to other domains. So you could analyze safety data sheets, or you could analyze regulatory documents. Really, there's no limit to what you could do with this. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about what directions we're going with Sysrev, and then I'll show you a few examples of that. So one really nice thing about public reviews is that you can generate links to those public reviews. So Dr. Peller asked me one night, which trials that we reviewed were placebo controlled, and I could respond to her, here, take a look at this link. This is a lot different than responding, 12 or something like that, because if I give her a link, she can see who extracted the data, she can see which articles the data was extracted from. She's provided a lot more transparency. She doesn't just need to take my word for it when I say 12, but she can also look up that number on the actual review. This makes the process much more trustable. And she can also take that link and then put it in her book chapter, thus communicating to other people in a reproducible, dependable way. Another project we have running on Sysrev is a project by the National Institute of Environmental Health Science in the United States. They're doing a review of hallmark and key characteristic mapping. You can actually go to this project right now, and looks like, I'm not sure if this link is going to work. I'll take a look at that with you in just a moment. So basically, this review includes about 40 people. Anybody can look at it, anybody can extract the data from it, and it's easy to share it with everyone. In fact, if you go to this review, they even have instructions in the title talking about how you could join this review as a reviewer. We have tools that we're building to allow programmers to access this data more easily. If you go to github.com/sysrev, you'll see how you could easily extract data from existing public reviews. Because every review generates lots of links, you can share those links on things like Reddit or Twitter. This is one of my favorite tweets. Dr. Lena Smirnova at Johns Hopkins uses Sysrev in an educational context. So she's teaching her students how to do this review process, and she has a public review for doing just that on zebrafish toxicology. That public review links to her Coursera course, and she's able to communicate between them. Finally, we've recently registered on Crossref, so in the near future, you can expect the ability to publish your public review on Sysrev. And everything on Sysrev is actually indexable by Google and Bing. And this means that if you search Bing for something like Gene Hunter, which is one of our popular Sysrevs, you'll be able to find it. So let me switch to that tab real quick. You can see I've already searched for this. I searched for Gene Hunter Sysrev, and you can see the second hit here is all about our Gene Hunter project. Inspired by the BioCreative project, Sysrev wants to provide public data sets for building algorithms that process literature. So if you click this link, you'll be taken to the Gene Hunter project. Here it is. You can read all about it. You can see all the people who did it and all the information. Okay. So Sysrev is making the systematic review process citable, linkable, and really importantly, discoverable or searchable by engines like Google and Bing. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to talk a little bit about the features that are involved with a Sysrev, but let me see if I can pull up the platform really quick. If you go to sysrev.com right now, you should see something that looks like this. It's quite easy to create an account. I encourage you to do so. It's completely free to do so. I'm just going to go ahead and log in and just step you through quite quickly. Yeah, so once you've logged in, you should see a screen like this, and we can do just a fun project really quickly about angry bees. So I'm going to create that project. So once you've logged in, you'll see a screen like this. You will create a new project just by typing the name and hitting create. And then you're dropped into your project. At this point, you can do a search. You can search for angry bees. And I just use this silly example because it allows me to search relatively quickly. My apologies, I've loaded this up on a very old machine and to get this to work with GoToWebinar. So I think it's being a little slower than it usually would be. But you can see that you can find all the articles loaded up immediately after you search for them. You can then import those articles and you'll have a project ready to run. I'll go ahead and take you to an example of a sort of a finished product. So if I go over to sysrev.com/p/3588, you can see a project being done by the National Institute of Environmental Health Science. They've already imported 57,000 articles. They have 40 members, and you can see the process they're making here. You can even see that we've got some predictive algorithms predicting things like whether or not an article should be included. So I encourage you to explore these projects. You can see what kind of data they're extracting in this review. If you click on one of these points, you can pull up all of the articles related to that review. And let's see. So that's how easy it is to create a Sysrev, really just a few steps. After that, you can easily manage users and reviews. You can invite users to your project, but just by sharing an invite link, you can track how much progress those users are making. So you can easily contact a user and say, hey, you need to review a few more articles. You can create reusable structured data. So basically you can create labels easily. That 3588 example I just showed you had a label for defining cancer hallmarks, and you can keep track of how those hallmarks are filling in, how many of those hallmarks have been identified in different articles. You can also easily search for those hallmarks on the articles page. And yeah, one thing I'll mention real quick is these screenshots look dark. It's actually, there are two themes to Sysrev, so you can easily just turn the lights off by clicking the dark theme in the upper right. That's the explanation for the difference there. And then we also build algorithms behind everything that you're doing. And so when you start a project, every project has a concept of including or excluding articles. And once you've included about 30 articles, we actually have an algorithm that gets automatically built to automate that process for you. And we also do things like automatically identify the important words that are occurring in your review. So I want to give you another quick example. We've created a project called Gene Hunter last year. We wanted to demonstrate the compensation features behind Sysrev, so we offered to pay everybody 50 cents per article that they reviewed. We tasked them with extracting genes from medical abstracts. So just to give you an example of that, you can see in this case, the user is extracting YY1 from this medical abstract. This is actually, the UI for this is actually a little bit cleaner now as well, but they simply select that gene, they save it, it gets saved in the database, and then you can programmatically access that. If you want to know exactly how to do this, and if you can do it yourself, you can go to blog.sysrev.com and you can read our simple NER post, which is about a 1 minute, 2 minute read. And if you're familiar with Python, you can easily do exactly what I'm going to be showing you. You can extract the annotations that have been performed in this gene hunter review, and you can build a model that automates the process of extracting genes. All right, so let me get back to the slideshow. So we did exactly that. We had these about 10 reviewers extract genes from about 10,000 sentences, and then we built a model that automated the process. So you can see an example here in the lower right where we have a sentence that mentions 2 genes, and the model is automatically identifying both of those genes. Once we have a model that can automate the process, we can then run that model on, let's say, all of the longevity literature. Here you can see genes like SIRT1, IGF1, DAF16, APOE, FOXO, FOXO3. These are really the regular suspects for longevity. So all of these genes have been mentioned in the context of a longevity medical abstract. If you don't think these are important genes, you should listen to Cynthia Kenyon's talk about longevity. She's a very well-known researcher in the longevity space, and her TED talk actually mentions a handful of these important genes that we automatically detected. Once you've done this process, we can also take this model and use it in other applications. So we have another application called whichgenesmatter.com. This application just launched in the last week. So if it has a little bit of uptime, downtime issues, please excuse us. But you can do quick searches on whichgenesmatter.com. And so it's a little risky, but here we go. All right, great. Search for longevity, hit enter. You can see that it's going to process that for a little bit. And we just give it a few more moments. Running this on an old computer doesn't help either, but here you can see similar genes showing up in our longevity search. The algorithm has actually been updated a little bit since the presentation was done. But you can see all these genes show up. These are all the relevant genes for longevity, and you can scroll through them. And you can also see the sentences that they occur in. So if we wanted to see, let's say, SIRT1, here we can see these are all the abstracts where SIRT1 occurred. You can click on the links for the PubMed article, and you can see, a human homolog of SIRT2, SIRT1 regulates the activity of p53 tumor suppressor. So all of this works just based on the gene hunter review that we did. If I take another example and say search for breast cancer, we should see HER2 show up, a very important gene for breast cancer, and maybe BRCA1 and BRCA2. So there you go. There's HER2, BRCA1, and BRCA2. All right. So the idea here is that we can upload a whole bunch of documents, in this case, medical abstracts. We can have reviewers do some sort of task on those documents, in this case, extract genes from those documents. We can then take that data and build a model that automates that task. And once we have that model, we can build new applications or simply do analytics on much larger corpuses. Okay, so we've already looked at the hallmark and key characteristic mapping project. I encourage you to go look at that yourself. You can click around. If you really want to, you can actually join that project as a reviewer. They'd be quite grateful to have more reviewers. Another example, just to show you another type of document that you can review. This is a project being done by the Sustainable Research Group. They help people manage their regulatory needs in the manufacturing space. And if I click review in this project, you can see that they're actually reviewing safety data sheets. So this is a PDF. They've uploaded quite a few of these PDFs, and they're identifying things like who is the manufacturer, what was the product identifier, product name, all this information. And this is an example they use to share with their clients. So their clients can see, oh, you can help us extract all this information from our safety data sheets, and that will help us satisfy our regulatory needs. I scroll down a little bit. Okay. I already talked about the Cancer Clinical Trials Project. You guys can take a look at that one if you're interested. And we already talked about the Gene Hunter project as well. One thing I'll point out on the Gene Hunter project, and might be more visible. There we go. So if I go to compensation, I'm an administrator on this project, so I have access to this. You will not. But this project, as I mentioned, we paid reviewers 50 cents per article. This whole system works. We paid about $1,000 to generate this whole project. You can add funds with PayPal, and then you can easily pay people and set up automated payments for their reviews. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and, well, actually, I think we have a little bit more time. So SysRev is really supporting the idea of fair reviews, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reproducible reviews. What you see on the right here is a table taken from sysrev.com/p/3588. That's that NIEHS project. And you can see exactly who reviewed which article and what kind of information they extracted from those articles. You can even click those usernames and you can find out, what other projects those users are a part of, what other articles have they reviewed. As I mentioned before, because SysRev is open access, all of your projects are accessible by Google and Bing and other search engines. This means that your research is discoverable. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it really matter? Same kind of thing can apply to research. If you do all this work, you really want people to be able to see what you're working on. And ideally, people can benefit from the kind of work you do. SysRev does also support private reviews. And those will be locked so that no one but you and your reviewers can access it. Okay, SysRev reviews are accountable. All this means is that you can see exactly who reviewed which articles, and that means that if you have like a bad actor, someone who comes in and assigns a whole bunch of bad information, you can identify that person easily and control that problem. You can also go to their user page. I mentioned this already, but everybody gets a user page. If you visit someone's user page by clicking their name in an article title or searching for them on SysRev, you can see which projects they've been a part of. Okay, and this big hairy image is what's happened in the last few months on SysRev. A lot of people have been joining, about 500 new users, tens of thousands of articles labeled. Actually, I guess 200,000 labels have been assigned. About 550 projects have been created. And what you're seeing in this graph is every brown circle here is a project, and every blue circle is a user. So something really exciting is happening on SysRev now, and that people are really starting to collaborate on different projects with each other. It's quite easy to do that. When you create a project, you can invite anybody you want to that project, and they can help you with your work. Okay. So just very quickly, SysRev is free. Public projects on SysRev will always be free. That's our commitment as long as we exist as a company. You can have as many public projects as you want. If you create a pro account, you can create private projects. And if you create a team account, you can create public or private projects, and you can invite other administrators to your project. And if you would like to explore other kinds of data sources like clinical trials or safety data sheets or regulatory data, just contact us and we'd be happy to talk about your project. Okay, that's all I have for now. Are there any questions with anything I've presented?
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.
This was very interesting, and I'm very excited to start using SysRev.
Great.
So, do we have any questions from the audience?
I guess I did a perfect job explaining it. If you want to know a little bit more about SysRev, I really encourage you to go ahead and just explore other projects. That's probably the easiest way. But we also write about what we're doing quite a bit. So we have a blog up at blog.sysrev.com, and you can explore some of our posts. Maybe the most useful one for a new person would be how to start a SysRev in 5 steps. It's about a 1-minute read and just steps you through what I was doing on my machine.
Okay, so we have our first question, and it says, how about qualitative analysis?
Yeah, if you want to do qualitative analysis, basically the process that's supported right now on SysRev is extremely flexible, right? So if you wanted to upload any kinds of documents for review, you can do that review process while the data is being generated. You can analyze that data in real time. So if there are features that you need specifically built on top of that for QA, we haven't built that qualitative analysis directly into the system, but it's quite easy to take the system and extend it with your own projects. If you had features you were interested in, that would help you more easily do QA, strongly encourage you to contact us and we can talk about them.
Great. So if anyone has even used Sysref before and would like to share their experience or anything they think might be challenging they would like to ask about, please feel free to send us your question now. Otherwise, I'm sure Tom would be happy to answer any questions after this webinar.
Yeah, please contact us. You can find our contact on sysrev.com. It's also you can contact me directly at tom@sysrev.com. That'll work. You can find us on Twitter as well. I think it is twitter.com/sysrev1.
Right. So I shared you Tom's email in the chat box. So Tom, has it been challenging maintaining the website and Sysrev in general?
Well, it is, quite a bit of work getting these kinds of things up, but fortunately our whole development team is quite passionate about this cause. And, we think we're really doing something that could be very transformative for the review community. This whole idea of open access review is something that really hasn't been done before. So really when more and more people create projects on Sysrev, those projects will become useful to the community at large. You can already see how that data can be used to do things like the Gene Hunter project. But the NIEHS project, the amount of work we do to support the website is significant, but the amount of work people are doing on the website is tremendous. You've got like 500,000 art labels have been assigned. We're up to almost 100,000 articles have been reviewed. Every one of those articles is like a person looks at an article and assigns labels to that article. That's crazy. I have an enormous respect to the amount of work those people are doing. I do it quite a bit myself, and I know it's backbreaking labor.
Nice. So we have a question. Does Sysrev include quality appraisal feature of included articles?
We don't do that right now, no. If you wanted, you could have quality appraisal worked into your Sysrev. So if you were reviewing articles, if you have some labels associated with quality appraisal, you could assign those labels. And then you could reuse those labels later. If you wanted to create a model to automate that process, you could do that yourself just by using the data that you're generating. If you wanted to have somebody help you do that, we can do that. We don't have any quality appraisal that's worked into the documents that you upload. Part of that is because we can't really control which documents you upload, right? So if you upload a whole lot of PDFs that we've never seen before, we can't really do a quality appraisal on that. But if you're working with well-known data sets, it's quite conceivable that you could review a whole bunch of those articles, do this quality appraisal, and share it with others, or somebody else could do that for you.
Also, I think it's because of the many quality appraisal tools that exist out there. So I think the way you've built it now that allows us to, label it will make it easier for choosing our own critical appraisal tool and then build on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It should be actually some I don't know if this is the right audience, but we've been reaching out to many developers because we've got this sort of open access approach at Sysrev. We really want to make it possible for other people to integrate their own tools. So if you had like a quality appraisal tool or even just a database or something like that, we'd be more than happy to work it into your project and make it available to other people doing projects on Sysrev.
Great. So, Zahra, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Thomas. So my name is Zahra Saad. I'm a research assistant at GESI. I've chatted with you before. I've used Sysrev actually for my systematic map project. I was doing data abstraction and I contacted you because I had a problem uploading PDFs. And then you solved that problem, and I thought it was really user-friendly and it was really helpful actually using it. So yeah, just wanna give my feedback.
Thank you so much for saying so. Yeah, right now, if you create a project on Sysrev and you have any problems, you can contact us. We're quite receptive and very motivated to fix any sort of issue that shows up. Hopefully the system works pretty well for everybody now. But it is a new system and occasionally something will show up. It's terrific that you're already working on this kind of stuff though. If you'd like, please share your project with others. Have you invited other people to your projects?
No, not yet, but I'll be sure to do that when we finish everything and setting everything actually.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If we don't have more questions, I just would reiterate, go ahead and play with the tool. You can get started. You don't ever have to talk to me. But if you want to learn about what's possible, please send me an email and we can talk. I'd love to learn what kind of projects you guys would like to see on Sysrev, what kind of projects you would like to start yourself. And we're, quite interested in helping people use this new form of review.
Wonderful. So thank you, Tom. The recording for this webinar will be available within 5 to 15 days on the GACI website. Tom, it was a really great presentation, and I'm sure everyone's excited to start using Sysrev, especially that it advocates for open science. So thank you for all your efforts and for the presentation today.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining us on another session of the GACI webinar series. See you soon and stay tuned for our upcoming sessions. Goodbye for now.